Hi there, my name's Ben Edwards. I'm a nutrition coach here at Persevere CrossFit and a licensed clinical social worker. I want to thank you for joining me today for our nutrition talk on 3 ways to prioritize your mental health. Hoping by the end of this presentation, you will understand these 3 tips for prioritizing your mental health, as well as some helpful information on when it is a good time to reach out for help and some information on how to navigate the therapy experience. Our nutrition program is powered by Healthy Steps Nutrition. And at Persevere CrossFit, we believe something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated. And that's why we focus on a simple habits-based approach to help you reach your goals one step at a time. We have here some examples of success stories with people who have used the Healthy Steps Nutrition program. And although I don't have a ton of time under my belt as a nutrition coach at the gym yet, I do want to go over some non-scale victories that we've been noticing in the program so far with some of my clients. I've got some quotes here I want to go over, particularly from our owner and coach, Jess. Now, Jess has been working with me for almost 3 months now. If you know Jess, you know she's a very hard worker, incredibly strong, very driven person. But like everyone else, Jess deals with stress and self-doubt. And this is one of the main issues that we've seen a lot of progress on with Jess. It's just her overall confidence and her attitude about food and her body overall. One thing that she said recently that is just a really good sign of one of these mindset non-scale victories is that she feels like she's gaining more self-worth and that she feels like she has more energy and is stronger than she's been before. So these are the kind of things that kind of keep us going as we work towards these long-term body composition goals. Because when things get hard, if you can't point to why you're doing this or what you're getting out of it, it's a lot easier to give up. Also, I've had clients say, I feel like less stressed and feel a sense of accomplishment, which is something that I haven't felt in a long time. Also clients and bragging about being able to keep up with the younger athletes in the gym, now that they are better fueled and feeling stronger. So even in the short period of time I've been doing this, we've seen a lot of success, not only on the scale, but off the scale as well. Since COVID, the world has seen a significant increase in those battling anxiety, depression, substance abuse, and suicide. In 2021, Arthur Evans Jr., the CEO of the American Psychological Association, said that we are facing a mental health tsunami. Even further, it's estimated that nearly half of adults facing such issues are not seeking out treatment. Today, we're going to talk about what mental health is, why it's important, and 3 ways to prioritize your mental well-being. So let's start with the what and the why of mental health. So I want you to take a second before I continue and think about what comes to mind when you hear someone talk about mental health. This is an important thing to think about because often when people think about mental health, what they really think about is mental illness. So they think about depression, anxiety, substance abuse, psychosis, bipolar disorder. And this is part of the problem with why people do not seek mental health earlier on when it could be more helpful. It's because they had this bar of like suffering they had to meet because they view mental health in this very strict spectrum, only when there is this significant problem. So mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Dr. Christina Maglieri, a psychologist and affiliate owner, described our mental health as a driver of a car, the car being our body. Driver decides where and when to turn, how long the trip will take, even the destination. Our mental health affects how we think, how we feel, how we act. Our mental health affects our ability to handle the day-to-day stressors, our ability to relate to our surroundings, to each other, and each choice and decision we make in a day. So why is this important? If we're not prioritizing our mental health and it declines, we're unable to make good decisions. So I do think this is a good description of what mental health is. And when we do feel like we're doing well, we typically see that we're able to meet whatever goals we set for ourselves, do the things that we want, interact with people the way we want, show up, being our best selves. So some signs that might be slipping away from us a little bit. We're going to start with emotional or mental signs. One would be you feel overwhelmed most of the time, even by small things. So that would be, overwhelmed constantly by even just having to do a simple chore around the house, any task that's on your schedule through the day. If you're feeling persistent sadness, anxiety, irritability, or emptiness that doesn't go away, sudden mood swings or emotional numbness, you're stuck in negative thought loops such as I'm not good enough, nothing will ever change, loss of interest in things you once enjoyed, feel hopeless or helpless more days than not. And you also want to keep an eye out for any kind of behavioral changes you may see. So things like your usual coping strategies aren't working anymore. So, if you're a type of person who has always been able to manage their stress through physical movement, and that's just not working anymore, or doesn't seem to have the same effect, or you really just aren't interested in it anymore, this could be a sign your coping strategy is not working for you. You're relying on alcohol, drugs, food, or avoidance to get through the day. You become more withdrawn or isolated from friends or family. You see changes in sleeping or eating patterns, whether it's sleeping too much or too little. You notice difficulty focusing, making decisions, or remembering things. So these next things I want to consider red flags. If you have experienced any of this is definitely a time for you to reach out to seek help. The first being you've had thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Now, there is no normal level of thoughts of self-harm or suicide. If you're thinking, oh, sure, every once in a while people think it'd be easier if they just weren't here. That is not a thought that we want to normalize. If this is happening, then I urge you to reach out to seek help. And there are different levels of suicidal thought. Obviously, you could have that kind of passing thought of things would just be easier if I wasn't around, versus having a plan, some thoughts about how you would achieve that plan, or any level of intent to carry it out. And you feel like you're losing control or can't trust your own mind. Others are worried about you, and you're starting to wonder if they're right. So if you are in that situation where you're feeling concerned for your safety, just know that you're never alone. You can call or text 988, that's a suicide prevention hotline, at any time, and be connected with a professional who can speak with you about what's going on and get you connected with the appropriate resources. So if you do decide that it's time to see a therapist, I think it's really important that we know how to make sure it's a good match. We spend a lot of time wondering if we should see a therapist, get anxious about the process, and maybe procrastinate. And the last thing that we want is to finally go through all that and then feel like, this person isn't able to help us. And then we end up just kind of putting it off. So I've compiled a list of questions that you would want to ask your therapist just to kind of make sure it's a good fit for you. One, what's your general approach to therapy? So you don't have to research all the types of approaches. If you ask a therapist this, they should know how to answer it. But some examples would be cognitive behavioral therapy, psychodynamic therapy, trauma-informed care, and so on. How do you typically work with someone dealing with my issue, whether it's anxiety, trauma, relationship issues, etc.? Do you give homework or use structured techniques, or is it more conversational and open-ended? So whenever I see a new client, this is something that I make sure to ask, what have you seen a therapist before? What worked for you, and maybe what didn't work so well? So oftentimes this is one of the points they're going to make. They might have felt like it was a little too casual. They just talked and they didn't feel like they had any tools to help them outside of the session, or they felt like it was way too structured, felt like they had enough stress going on in their life. They didn't need a bunch of homework to do. So definitely make sure you're asking this question so you know that this therapist can work in a style that works for you. Do you have experience working with clients who are my age, gender, identity, ethnicity, sexual orientation, etc.? And have you worked with people dealing with this specific issue before? We also want to kind of tend to our therapeutic relationship in that first session. Some important questions for that are, how do you handle a situation where a client feels stuck or isn't making progress? So you shouldn't be seeing a therapist, for a year and feel like there's been no progress, or having the same discussions over and over and nothing is getting better. A therapist should be able to pick up on that and address that issue with you and decide if maybe a referral to another provider or specialist is good for you. You shouldn't just be seeing a therapist because you'll show up and it's a paycheck for them. So they should be able to tell you how they would handle that situation. You want to ask, what's your view on feedback? How should I tell you if something isn't working for me? So you really shouldn't be able to offend your therapist by saying things aren't working. It's your time and they should make sure that you're getting the most out of it. So the last thing you want is to be sitting in a therapist's office to feel like you're too anxious or intimidated to say something because they're supposed to be the person you could talk to about anything. So get this out of the way early so you can see if they're open to feedback and so that you're not worried if you feel like you need to address this issue. Things to watch out for, do they seem open and non-defensive? Do they invite your input? Do they respect your autonomy? So what I mean by this is, if you come in and there's a couple different issues going on and you want to focus on one specific issue, but they're trying to kind of overrule you and say, no, this is what you need to do first, or, that's not as important, then this might be a therapist who doesn't necessarily respect your autonomy. Do they seem knowledgeable and confident, but not rigid? So this might go back to their approach. If you come in saying that you have a certain issue, they may know a certain approach that has tended to work for them with that issue. They've seen success with their clients, and you may not like the sound of it, but they say, this is the way you need to treat this issue. If they're a little rigid and stubborn in their approach, then you might want to see if there's another therapist that could work better for you. All right. So while our mental health affects our ability to handle stressors and what decisions we make, it has far more impact on our body than we may think. So people with depression have a 40% higher chance of developing cardiovascular disease according to the National Alliance of Mental Illness, or NAMI. Additionally, those battling depression have an increased risk of diabetes, stroke, general pain, osteoporosis, and even Alzheimer's. You may be wondering about the connection. Scientists are exploring many physiological changes that play a role. They found that many systems in the body are impacted, such as increased inflammation, changes in heart function, hormone levels, and metabolic differences. Now that we've briefly discussed what mental health is, how important it is to our overall health and wellness, let's dive into 3 ways you can start prioritizing your mental health. Tip 1, schedule time to move. And I really want to, hammer in the schedule part on this. There's been research done on what increases success in implementing a new habit. There was 3 groups in this study. They had one that they said you would get X amount of money if you exercise this many times in a week. They had another group that they educated on the benefits of exercise. And another group where they made sit down and put the days they're going to exercise in on a calendar ahead of time. And the group that just scheduled the work was far more consistent and successful in implementing that habit. So scheduling your time is important. Time is like money. If you don't manage it, it kind of slips away from you. Have you ever heard the phrase, movement is medicine? Well, it's 100% true. Exercise has been shown to reduce depression and anxiety by over 30%. According to NAMI, exercise has been proven to treat a variety of mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, eating disorders, bipolar disorders, schizophrenia, addiction, grief, dementia, and personality disorder. Exercise can be used as a standalone treatment for some mild conditions or in conjunction with other treatments for more severe issues. So I have heard a lot of people say, the gym is my therapy, and I definitely understand and respect that. But I want to go back to some of the warning signs I had mentioned earlier in the presentation. If you're in the gym all the time and you're still having some of those red flags, some of those warning signs, it could be a good time to incorporate therapy into that program as well. So how does movement have this significant impact? Exercise increases levels of serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine in our brains. This improvement of these important neurotransmitters ultimately leads to feeling mentally healthy. Exercise will enhance our mood, energy, while decreasing stress. Movement can also improve our cognitive functioning, and not to mention lead to high self-esteem, which may lead to improved social well-being. Not sure how to get started? Here are a few things to consider when it's time to start incorporating fitness into your health journey. So schedule your workout like any other appointment in your calendar. You wouldn't skip out on an important work meeting, so don't skip out on your workout. Okay? Get an accountability buddy. Having someone to work out with is a great way to make it happen. Find that person who will make sure you show up and vice versa. And that's what's so great about CrossFit. You have this community of people who are excited for you to show up and to make progress and celebrate your wins. Move in ways that make you feel good. Workouts don't need to be flashy or intense. Find things that will excite you. Take time to learn a new dance, go out for a walk, ride your bike, lift those weights, or take the stairs. Obviously, CrossFit is a great way to get physical movement in, but sometimes you need something a little less intense to let your body recover. Things like walks, hikes, pickleball is also very fun. And right across the street from our gym, there's pickleball courts. So, get creative with your movement. Sometimes people get stuck in an all or nothing thinking. If I don't go to the gym, like a walk isn't going to cut it. That's not as intense. It's not worth my time. Just 30 minutes of any kind of movement in a day is good enough. So make sure you have options just in case, you can't get to your primary source of exercise for that day. Tip number 2, incorporate a balanced diet. So many studies have shown that diets high in fruits and vegetables, modest in lean protein, and void of many processed sugars and foods is associated with a 25 to 35% lower risk of depression when compared to the typical westernized diet. In a study published in Psychology and Cognitive Neuroscience Focused Journal, researchers found that in as little as 1 week, eating a Western diet can significantly alter brain function, with the participants of the study doing worse on learning and memory tests. Further, the Western diet was tied to overeating and increased cravings for sugar treats after consuming a regular meal. So what is the Western diet? A Western diet includes high consumption of processed foods, refined grains, bread and processed meats, saturated and trans fats, and sugar. Also has a low consumption of fruits and veggies, whole grains, lean protein, and healthy fats. Remember the neurotransmitters I mentioned? Serotonin is often known as the happiness hormone, but did you know that this hormone impacts our entire body, affecting things like sleep, eating, feelings, or mood and digestion? Even further, did you know that a vast majority of our serotonin receptors are located in our gut? Newer research is finding that the balance of good and bad bacteria in our gut is directly related to our diet and has a connection with disease, including depression and anxiety. So what these findings are telling us is that when we aren't making the choice to eat a balanced diet, the balance of our gut, which is directly related to our mood, gets compromised, leading us to feel sadder and more unmotivated. So you may have noticed this, if you have a meal from a fast food restaurant, you might feel a little sluggish after, your stomach may feel upset, versus if you do have a more balanced meal, you might say that you feel a little more refreshed and light. It's kind of a difference of how our gut is responding to the food we're eating. To learn more about how the food we eat is connected to our mood, be sure to check out episode 34 on the Nutrition Made Simple podcast with Nicole Thune and Dr. Uma Nadu. In this podcast, Nicole and Dr. Uma discuss how refined carbohydrates, sugar, and processed foods increase the risk of mental health illness. They also discuss what foods to prioritize to improve mental health. All right, so now I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the plate method, which is a great way to start incorporating a balanced diet into your life. Okay, so use the plate method by having 1/4 of your plate being carbs, 1/4 protein, and half with non-starchy veggies. You can also incorporate some mindful healthy fats like avocado or certain oils, nuts. Okay. In addition to balancing your meals, you should also balance your snacks. Snacks are a great way to stay mindful throughout the day, keeping you from overeating, feeling overly hungry. This can lead to episodes of binge eating and shifts in our mood. So snacks, just like our meals, should be balanced. And each time you sit down for a small snack between your larger meals, ask yourself, do I have a protein, carbohydrate, and a fat? And here are some great balanced snack options: hard-boiled eggs with fruit, non-fat Greek yogurt with almonds and berries, bell peppers with hummus, fruit, and turkey. Lastly, aim to drink 60 to 80 ounces of water each day. Research has shown that dehydration can increase your risk of anxiety and depression, among other mental states. If you struggle to drink enough water throughout the day, try getting a dedicated water bottle to carry with you wherever you go. Drink out of a straw, and if you don't enjoy the taste of water, add a citrus fruit. I also like to maybe use a electrolyte powder just to give me a little bit of flavor when I'm having taste fatigue from just drinking water. And so that could be a good way to increase your hydration and add a little bit of flavor. Prioritize positive self-talk. So positive self-talk is one of those things we've all heard about, but maybe never took the time to learn about the impact it can have on our mental health. A study discussed in the book Soundtracks by John Acuff found that stating positive affirmations just 20 times in a month had a significant effect on more than 10,000 people's well-being. Here's what the large study found. First, they asked, does repeating positive affirmation help decrease overthinking? The answer is yes. Participants were 250% more likely to decrease overthinking. Further, those who said affirmations at least 20 times or more in the given month were 46% times more likely to decrease overthinking when compared to the group who repeated affirmations only 5 times in a month. Next, they asked, does decreased overthinking increase productivity? Again, yes. When comparing the group that said affirmations 20 times versus the group that said affirmations 10 times, worked 9 more days per month towards their goals. They also had 21% higher satisfaction rating as they felt better about their work and got more done. Lastly, the study wanted to know if decreased overthinking increases overall success towards goals. You guessed it, the answer once again is yes. People who decrease overthinking were able to complete 78% more of their goal. This study found that this group is 4 times more likely to reach or almost reach their goal. So I know positive affirmations sometimes can feel a little bit cheesy or awkward, but we tend to overlook the power of positive affirmations. But when we have doubt or negative thoughts, we tend to give them a little more credit than maybe they deserve. Positive thinking and negative thinking have the same ability to affect your mood. It's really a matter of developing a habit of one or the other. The more that you practice positive thinking and positive affirmations, the easier it feels. Just like with your negative thinking, it didn't take root overnight. It was something that developed over time, be part of your beliefs about yourself. So I know you might feel a little weird saying positive affirmations in the mirror, but give it some time. Like any skill, it takes repetition for you to master. The study originated from Zig Ziglar's idea to incorporate daily positive affirmations that are said either in the morning or at night in a mirror. Here's an example of what that may sound like. I am a person with integrity, a great attitude, and specific goals. I have a high energy level, am enthusiastic, and take pride in my appearance and what I do. I have a sense of humor, lots of faith, wisdom, and the vision and courage to use my talents effectively. So today, I challenge you to identify 2 positive affirmations that you may or may not believe right now, and I want you to recite them in the mirror every morning for the next 2 weeks to see what kind of impact it can have on your overall mental well-being. So one thing you'll notice about these positive affirmations, the person is not saying, I'm going to get 100% on this test today. It's not a prediction of outcomes. They're focusing on characteristics about themselves that make them feel good or confident. At this point, your handbook should be filled and you are considering your next moves to prioritize your mental health. But you may also be wondering some more tips that have helped those 40,000 people each year with their health and wellness goals. With all this misinformation out there, we know it can feel overwhelming. To start building your foundation, here are the HSM principles that have helped so many people take control of their health, one habit at a time. 1, add more whole food to your diet. Start choosing the whole food options and less processed foods packed with sodium, fat, and sugar. A simple way to start this is by reshaping your plate with the plate method. Half the plate non-starchy veggies, 1/4 lean protein, 1/4 starchy carbs, and mindful healthy fats. Number 2, focus on balance. When we say balance, we mean, does every meal and snack you consume throughout the day contain a carb, protein, and fat? Pairing each meal and snack with all 3 of these macronutrients will keep you fuller long. 3, limit the added sugar. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 6 teaspoons for women and 9 for men. The average person consumes over 150 pounds of sugar per year, and that's 46 teaspoons per day. It's not surprising sugar is super addicting and feels hidden in almost every product you find in a package. Things like your condiments or your drinks are a place where sugars tend to go unnoticed throughout the day. So, go through your fridge, check out your favorite condiments, and figure out how many grams of sugar there are in the serving. Be mindful of what that serving size is, because sometimes, the labeling will say only 2 grams of sugar, but the serving size is very small. So you end up getting a lot more sugar than you think. I would like to take time to answer any questions. So if you have any questions or concerns about the information presented in this, feel free to reach out, shoot an email, and I can get back to you on that. If you'd like the information that I provided as far as questions asked therapists, warning signs, just send an email to the gym's email, or you can text Josh or Jess, and I will make sure to get that information to you. Okay? So what should I eat around my workout? And filling around your workout to gain muscle, lose fat, increase energy, or really any health and fitness goal is important. Okay. Aim to have healthy carbs and protein before and after your workout. If you don't put gas in your car, you wouldn't expect to get you anywhere. But my favorite pre-workout fuel is typically protein yogurt with some granola and honey and fruit. My favorite post-workout fuel is usually a protein shake and some more of that yogurt with granola, honey, and fruit. Okay. What if I don't like veggies? I've heard this so many times, and maybe you feel this way as well. But I want to challenge you and ask you, what if you just haven't found the way you like them? So roasting your veggies for a nice crunch rather than mushy veggies, adding good seasoning for flavor you can be excited for, and even finding ways to sneak them into recipes and even smoothies is an easy way to get more veggies in your day. So where should I start? This is a great question. And I want you to start with one thing at a time. Maybe it's something you already have in mind, or maybe it's one of the things we discussed today. But the best and fastest way to reach your goals is to work one-on-one with a nutrition coach to build an individualized plan just for you. So here at Persevere CrossFit, we focus on a habits-based approach to create an individualized plan just for you. We work together utilizing our many tools and resources to build your nutrition foundation to create a sustainable plan. Along with our tools and resources, we know how important support and accountability is when it comes to our long-term goals, which is why we will be there to help guide you and tweak the plan every step of the way. So when you sign up for our program, we have our initial consultation, and during that time, we talk about what your goals are. We go over a sample day of eating and activity, and we start to identify some areas where we can start making a habit change to get you closer to your goal. So you put that habit into the HSN app, and you can track it every day that you complete it. So this is going to help you track consistency, keep you aware of maybe days where it's not working out so well, help you identify barriers to your goals a little better. In that app, you can communicate with your coach anytime, and you'll get a response within 24 hours. There's also helpful links in the app, such as recipe links and videos that you can view every day. They're going to give you additional feedback on tips for managing stress, lifestyle, sleep, nutrition, and exercise. So there's a wealth of knowledge and support involved in our nutrition program. And if you're curious about getting started and getting help setting your goals and resources and accountability, there is a link here on this slide for setting up your discovery call to get us started. All right. If you're looking to hear more about how this program can change your life, tune into the Nutrition Made Simple podcast. This is also run by HSN. It has a lot of helpful episodes about things like hormones, nutrition, exercise, a lot of helpful information. So today we dove into what mental health is, why it matters, and 3 tips to help you prioritize your mental health, including movement, a balanced diet, positive affirmations. I hope that you found this helpful. And again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything we discussed today. Thanks for joining and have a good day.